Hello, dear viewers. Support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it. And also, make sure you comment your thought. Now let's start the video. Across the endless sea, a 10-meter-long old pirate ship is sailing with the wind. Jack Sea Dog leaned on the railing of the deck, looking at the endless sea, thinking about his future plans. His real name is Kai Khan, and he was originally an elevator maintenance worker in the 21st century of Blue Star, with a salary of 10,000 yuan a month. Usually, he was a keyboard warrior, and he went to wash his feet when he got his salary. Although he was single, his life was still comfortable. As a result, he died suddenly in front of the computer, not long ago. When he woke up again, he had become a pirate in the world of Game of Thrones, named Jack Sea Dog. The predecessor was 16 years old this year, and his father was a pirate with 3 younger brothers. In fact, he was not a pirate at all. More like a thief who could only rob the fishermen's boats. Some time ago, his father had to do a big job, and the result was obvious. He was beaten to death on the spot by the guards of court. So Coglin, also known as Jack Sea Dog, naturally became the owner of the Sea Dog. He didn't know how much his father loved Sea Dog. There were originally 3 crew members on the ship, but 2 of them died in Korth with his father. Another took all the few silver coins on the ship and ran away. The death of the previous incarnation was also due to the crew member who took the silver coins. The crew member's nickname was Shrimphead, and his father used to call him Shrimphead Man. When he took the money away, he was caught by his predecessor, who then hit his head with an iron rod, but he didn't expect to kill him directly. Now the most valuable thing on the entire ship is a 3-month-old ewe, which was bought by his father for Jack. You know, when ewes are in heat, they are known as Saikabi, but the previous incarnation died before he could use it. Every time Jack sees the ewe, he feels absurd. Meh. The ewe Evelyn came forward and rubbed Jack's calf. Well, thank God Shrimphead didn't take you with him when he left. Jack bent down and touched Evelyn's head. When Shrimphead left, he only took away money, not food, and Evelyn, which allowed Jack, who had just traveled through time, to survive. System hasn't it loaded yet? Jack has been traveling through time for 2 days. When he checked this morning, the system had been loaded 99%. Ding, the system is loaded and the system reports to you. Hello, dear host. My name is KK, and I am the latest generation of intelligent system developed by the Supreme God civilization. How is it, host? The High Magic World is spectacular, right? High Magic World. Do you know the Game of Thrones? Yes, it was one of the original Middle Magic Worlds, but later fell to the Low Magic World because of a war in Middle-earth. Jack frowned. It's broken. This system looks very smart, but it's actually a mentally retarded one. Can it really help me reach the pinnacle of life like the system in the novel? At this time, the system also found something wrong. Host, how long did it take me to start the machine? Jack said speechlessly, about 30 hours, less than 2 days. Very that. How could this happen? How do I know? Jack was speechless. It's broken. The first trip is a losing business. KK thought to himself. Dear host, I can give you a chance to draw a lottery every year. The novice gift package has been issued. I will absorb the origin of the world first. KK originally gave a chance to draw a lottery every day. It is a very advanced lottery system, but the origin level of this world is too low, so it can only give it once a year. And KK did not plan to stay with Jack or in this world. Otherwise, its mission indicators will definitely not be completed. When it returns to the Supreme God civilization, won't it be laughed at by its peers for a lifetime? KK looked at the low-level gods and demigods in this world, ready to secretly absorb these gods. Anyway, countless low-level gods will die in every era, and there is no shortage of a few in this low magic world. This will be enough to offset the energy expenditure of this crossing. In a month at most, it can harvest the origin of this world. Then it will run away directly, letting the host play slowly here. Anyway, the novice gift package of the High Magic World is enough for the host to survive. Please wait a moment. You absorbed the origin of the world and this world collapsed. I can't finish it. Jack suddenly found the blind spot. KK was in a bad mood, so he said directly, Are you a fool? The origin of the world is like leeks, which can be harvested regularly, as long as the roots are not destroyed. Little black man, do you have any quality? Why are you cursing? Jack suddenly got angry. How can he talk to his master? So Jack cursed at the air for more than 10 minutes in Evelyn's blank eyes before he stopped. Fey! Jack hammered the railing fiercely. How could he? a human being, be the opponent of the system. After being scolded by the system in a non-repeated language for more than 10 minutes, he felt like he was going to explode like his girlfriend in his previous life. It would be better if he was given a low-powered system. Anyway, the level of force in the Game of Thrones world is not very high, Jack said unhappily. May? Evelyn called softly. No, I didn't scold him for losing. I scolded that damn system so much that it became autistic. It will take a year for it to recover. Knowing that Evelyn didn't understand, Jack still spoke to cover up, as if he could win a spiritual victory. After saying that, Jack went to the deck to get a bucket, tied a rope, and drew a bucket of seawater. Just now, the system gave him a novice gift package and a chance to draw a lottery, so he had to wash his hands before he could draw a lottery. And fresh water is too precious at sea, so he can only wash with seawater. It's all water anyway, all the same. After washing his hands carefully, Jack summoned the system screen and a large roulette wheel appeared. Although KK had already extracted the origin of the world, the basic functions of the system could still be used. As Jack's mind moved, the roulette wheel spun rapidly, and then slowly stopped on a blue egg. Fuck, what is this? Just when Jack was puzzled, the introduction of the system appeared. Godzilla Cub, a legendary creature transformed by the system. It will break its shell after being taken out. It will obey you completely and understand you. It will be 200 meters tall when it grows up. After reading the system introduction, Jack could hardly suppress the joy on his face. Godzilla Cub is completely invincible in the world of Game of Thrones. Maybe the adult Godzilla is not as big as the 2,000-year-old dragon, but the two are not in the same league in terms of strength. Jack, who was very happy, opened the novice gift pack again. Anyway, with Godzilla as a guarantee, the things in the novice gift pack are no longer important. However, the things in the novice gift pack did not disappoint Jack. There are a total of 4 things in the novice gift pack. Unknown longsword, a magical alloy longsword from a certain American comic universe which can cut iron like mud and blow hair off hair. A box of self-heating hot pot contains 12 boxes of self-heating hot pots of various flavors which can be used to fill the stomach at critical moments. Worker ant serum, a serum from a certain Marvel parallel universe that can strengthen your body. Don't worry, it has no side effects. The first injection will also cure physical diseases and hidden injuries. Heart of the ocean, after the transplant, you will be the darling of the sea, swimming freely in the ocean. No matter what injuries and negative states you have, you can heal and eliminate them. Even after death, the sea can still revive you. But the resurrection time may be longer. Please be careful when trying to commit suicide. Jack was already grinning from ear to ear at this time. This system is really good. The things given in the novice gift package are so good, especially the Heart of the Ocean. After transplantation, you can not only gain the ability to dive in the deep sea, but also gain super self-healing ability. You can even come back to life, but I don't know how long it will take to resurrect. In fact, these gifts are prepared for the higher world, but for some reason Jack was teleported to the world of Game of Thrones. That's why Jack had the illusion that the novice gift package was very luxurious. Jack took out the longsword first. Once the things in the system were taken out, they could not be put back. The longsword is silver in color, 4 fingers wide, and the hilt is an ordinary hilt. The most common longswords in Game of Thrones are 2-finger to 3-finger longswords, followed by rapiers and soft swords, but they are not common. There is nothing special about it. Generally speaking, it is simple and elegant, and Jack still likes it very much. He was afraid that the system would give him a fancy but not practical longsword. Putting the longsword away, Jack took out the worker ant serum and the self-heating hot pot. The serum is a metal container of about 10 centimeters. A needle is ejected with a light press on the tail. Taking a deep breath, Jack injected the serum into his body, and a heat flow suddenly appeared in his body, which lasted for about a minute. Jack's originally dry and rough skin has become fair and tender again, and he has grown 5 centimeters taller, becoming a handsome man of 1.8 meters. Looking at the handsome face with sword eyebrows and star eyes in the tattered bronze mirror, the golden white hair and lavender eyes are so eye-catching. I heard from my father that he was a bed slave in Slave Bay, which seems to be possible. With this handsome face, he is definitely loved by the ladies. Thinking of this, Jack touched his longsword and found that he was really gifted. Then Jack carried Evelyn on his shoulders and did dozens of squats, and then he had a preliminary understanding of the degree of enhancement of the serum. It was about twice, but the details were not clear. Then Jack found some other things to test. Based on the things he lifted, Jack estimated that his strength should be around 300 kilograms, and it should be higher after training, reaching 400 kilograms. This data is very good. Even the big sword sent by the system has changed from heavy to smooth when wielded. Moreover, the serum not only strengthens strength, but also comprehensively strengthens endurance and metabolism. This also gives Jack a stronger ability to resist blows and recover. The last step is to transplant the heart of the ocean. As long as the heart of the ocean is taken out, the system will automatically complete the transplant. As the transplant was completed, Jack did not feel anything special. It just has a pair of freely controllable gills behind the ears, which can be hidden under the skin when not in use. The heart of the ocean did not seem to strengthen Jack's physical fitness, but it would slowly transform his body so that Jack could gradually adapt to the pressure of the seabed. Finally, Jack looked at the self-heating hot pot and licked the corner of his mouth unconsciously. He almost vomited from eating dry bread during this period. The dry bread on the ship is not the dry bread like Jack's previous life. The dry bread on the ship is almost the same as a brick. Every time you eat it, you have to soak it in water for a long time before you can eat it. And there is a layer of green algae floating on the stored fresh water. This is a problem that cannot be avoided. The smell is as deadly as the sewage in the ditch in Jack's previous life, and the only meat smoked sausage on the ship. The taste is also hard to describe. Every meal is like a torment for Jack. Some information comes from Wikipedia. The timeline has been slightly changed, but the impact is not great. Jack happily ate a box of self-heating hot pot, and even the dry bread soaked in it was so delicious. Don't ask why you need to soak dry bread. The question is that 500 yens of self-heating hot pot is simply not enough to eat, and Jack is reluctant to open a second box. It's so satisfying. Jack placed the remaining 11 boxes of self-heating hot pot under the bed. Jack was not worried about rats, because the rats on the ship had long been eaten as fresh meat, which meant that there were no rats on the Sea Dog. After eating and drinking, Jack took out Godzilla's egg, and a half-meter-high blue giant egg appeared on the deck. Within 3 seconds of taking it out, cracks appeared in the dome, and then a fat Q version of Godzilla appeared in front of Jack. The whole thing looks a little fat. Jack has never seen a baby Godzilla, so he is not sure whether this is normal, but he looks very cute. In addition, Godzilla is just a group name, not a separate name. So Jack gave Godzilla the name Poseidon, which means the king of the ocean. Poseidon, the king of the sea. This name is much nicer than Jack's last name, and Jack also changed his name to Jack Poseidon. He changed his last name from Sea Dog to Poseidon. After all, the title of Sea Dog is really embarrassing. You can't let people ask you what your name is when Jack becomes prosperous in the future. Then Jack loudly announced his name. My name is Jack Sea Dog. In the world of Game of Thrones, it is very normal to give your name after meeting, just like your resume. Jack does not want to be embarrassed in the future. Jack looked up at the flag of the Sea Dog. It was said that it was a vicious dog with big teeth. Jack also believed that his father, whom he had never met before, really wanted to sew a vicious sea dog. But perhaps due to poor technology, the seal on the flag looks more like a pig than a dog. Patting Poseidon's little head, Jack pointed to the flag on the ship. Can you use your atomic breath to knock that thing down? So yes. Poseidon blinked his little eyes. Although what Jack said didn't sound human, he still opened his mouth and took a deep breath. A faint blue light appeared on the chest and back, followed by a blue light beam. But it only lasted less than a second and disappeared into the air before it touched the flag. A trace of loss flashed across Poseidon's small eyes. As a creature of the system, he had been implanted with the idea of being loyal to Jack since he was born. However, it failed to complete the first task Jack gave it. Jack was very surprised when he saw the lost look in Poseidon's eyes. He underestimated Poseidon's wisdom and instinctively thought that Poseidon was just a tool created by the system. But now it seems that is not the case. Poseidon has his own emotions and intelligence. Jack quickly stroked Poseidon's little head and praised, not bad, you did a good job." As a Titan, Godzilla would be his fault if he was raised to lack confidence. Sure enough, upon hearing Jack's compliment, Poseidon's little eyes immediately showed happiness. At this time, Evelyn walked over slowly and looked at Poseidon curiously, wondering why this guy could stand on 2 legs. Poseidon also looked at Evelyn curiously. A trace of saliva flowed out, and then he opened his big mouth and was about to bite Evelyn. "What?" The sudden attack startled Evelyn. She quickly hid behind Jack, then stretched her head between Jack's calves to observe Poseidon. "Poseidon, Evelyn is my child bride. You can't eat it," Jack said jokingly. Poseidon nodded upon hearing this, indicating that he understood. Then I wanted to stretch out my paws to wipe the saliva, but my hands were too short now and I couldn't reach my mouth. Jack stepped forward and wiped off its saliva with his sleeve. "You need to go fishing in the sea by yourself. There is only dry bread on the boat, which is vegetarian. You can't eat it." Poseidon patted the deck with his tail, then came to the edge of the deck and jumped down into the bottomless ocean. Although the Godzilla family is also very powerful on land, the ocean is their home field. Jack didn't have to worry about Poseidon getting lost. As a Godzilla produced by the system, he can perfectly identify the magnetic field of the Game of Thrones world. It can also sense Jack's position regardless of distance. Speaking of the world of Game of Thrones, or the world of ice and fire, we have to mention the famous American TV series Game of Thrones. I believe that more people have only watched the American TV series and not the original work. This is the case with Jack, but Jack also knows part of the original work. He has only watched the TV series of Game of Thrones, but he has not read the original novel A Song of Ice and Fire. Judging from the plot of the American TV series, the entire plot of Game of Thrones revolves around the power struggle in Westeros. The Targaryen dynasty, which had ruled Westeros for 300 years, was overthrown. Then the new dynasty of Westeros failed to gain a firm foothold, and fell into a multi-nation struggle for hegemony, similar to that of the ancient Celestial dynasty and the Warring States period. It's just that the scale is much smaller, and although Jack feels that the first 6 seasons of the American TV series are very exciting, they are not very outstanding in terms of tactics. Jack knew that if he didn't have the foresight and modern knowledge, he might not be as good as a native of Game of Thrones. But this does not prevent Jack from calling it the Song of Assassination and Grass 13. But who can blame Jack for his foresight and modern knowledge? Moreover, Jack is a Chinese. He still admires the political tactics of his ancestors more, which makes him look down on the political tactics in Game of Thrones. According to the memory of his predecessor, when his father went to the port of Kors to steal things, the mother of dragons, Daenerys Targaryen, had not yet arrived in Kors. That is to say, Daenerys has not yet hatched 3 baby dragons, and she is even in Pentos, and the plot has not yet fully begun. So Jack will face 3 choices next. The first is to get involved in the power struggle in Westeros, and use Jack's foresight to get some benefits and expand his fleet. But Westeros pays attention to bloodline and origin, and the benefits that can be obtained are minimal. The second is to wait for Daenerys to arrive in Slaver's Bay, and then surrender to Daenerys, fish in troubled waters, and expand his fleet. This method is not bad. Daenerys' power belongs to the emerging power, which is easy to squeeze into the power center, and then develop her own power to survive Godzilla's growth period. The last one is more normal. That is, like normal pirates, slowly rob to make money, and then expand their fleet. But this kind of development has great limitations, because if you rely on robbing alone, you will definitely anger the trading city-states of Essos. And finally, you will be surrounded and suppressed, which makes it difficult for Godzilla to survive the development period. In short, Jack's ultimate goal is to expand his fleet and build a maritime empire. As for developing on the mainland, Jack has no plans for the time being. In the future, you can build some military bases and colonies in Westeros or Essos. The Sun Never Sets Empire in the previous life is a good reference template. Moreover, the attributes of the Heart of the Ocean destined Jack not to develop inland, and the island is Jack's best choice. In the ocean, Jack and Poseidon are invincible, killing indiscriminately. Jack is responsible for quacking, and Poseidon is responsible for killing indiscriminately. A week passed quickly, and Jack returned to the ship from the sea. The Heart of the Ocean allows Jack to control the water flow in the sea, and the speed in the water is much faster than Jack's speed on land. In addition, Jack found that Poseidon's growth rate is quite fast, growing about 1 centimeter every day. In a week, Poseidon's body length is about 57 centimeters. Opening the ghostly nautical chart left by his old father, Jack's handsome face almost wrinkled together. I can only say that I can understand it, but not completely. Before Dad's pirate group had 2 ships, Jack and Dad controlled one, and the other was controlled by Dad's deputy. So the predecessor knew some navigation technology, but could not fully understand the nautical chart hand-painted by Dad, and had to find a professional navigator. It seems that I can only rob a navigator, Jack closed the nautical chart helplessly. As a pirate, it can be said that all the worth is obtained by robbery. This is also the way of life of pirates. Force is better than hard work. After he had money, Jack had to go to Astapor to buy some ship slaves and Unsullied as crew members. He also had to buy some skilled slaves who could repair ships in Marine, and he also had to visit the bed slave market in Yunkai. Just as Jack was thinking about his next plan, a merchant ship that was estimated to be more than 20 meters long appeared in front of him. Jack instantly became alert and looked at the merchant ship in the distance. Although it was far away, Jack still saw the flag of the Sons of the Harpy fluttering in the wind. It turned out to be a merchant ship from Slaver's Bay. I just don't know which city-state in Slaver's Bay it belongs to. It is very likely that there are slaves or spices on it. Jack carried Tsunami, which was the great sword given by the system. Then he jumped directly into the sea and rushed towards the merchant ship in the sea. If it was the Sea Dog that Jack drove by himself, he might never catch up with the merchant ship in front of him. With the blessing of the heart of the ocean, Jack was very fast in the water, as if the surrounding water was pushing Jack forward. Soon Jack came to the bottom of the merchant ship and climbed onto the merchant ship using the spike. When Jack climbed onto the merchant ship, everyone was stunned, looking at the young man with a confused face. How did this man climb up? The captain of the merchant ship was named Ojinga Yuli, a businessman who traveled between Slaver Bay and Court. This time, he cheated a dragon egg fossil from a farmer in Corinth at a low price. Hearing that the governor of Pentos was buying dragon eggs at a high price, he was ready to try his luck and see if he could sell them for a good price. Jack drew out the tsunami sword on his back and said skillfully, "Robbery, this ship and the cargo on it are mine now." Ojinga Yuli looked at Jack like a fool. It was the first time he saw someone robbing alone. Merchant ships like theirs that were more than 20 meters long basically had no professional guards. When facing pirates, slaves took up weapons to fight back, but it was not something a teenager could rob. What's more, this boy was delicate and tender, and obviously more like an aristocrat than a pirate who had been exposed to the wind and sun all year round. Jack inherited the memory of his predecessor, so he naturally knew that the guards on the merchant ship were usually slaves. That was why he dared to come alone to rob the ship. His predecessor often participated in battles and knew some combat skills. In summary, Jack thought he had the advantage and could attack. After all, there was still a big gap between slave soldiers and professional guards or mercenaries. Okega clapped his hands, and soon, in the eyes of everyone's ridicule, Jack saw 7 fully armed mercenaries walk out of the cabin. All 7 of them wore leather armor and held scimitars. Jack raised his eyebrows and thought to himself that this situation was not right. It was not cheap to hire these 7 fully armed mercenaries. This trip cost at least hundreds of gold coins. 1 gold dragon is equal to 30 silver moons, 210 silver deer, 1470 copper stars, 2940 copper wheat, 5880 half copper wheat, 170 copper cents, 20 copper coins. The system is 3772222. The currency of Game of Thrones is too troublesome and a mess. To simplify, 1 gold coin, dragon, 100 silver coins, 10,000 copper coins. Boy, you look quite young. Where is the noble? Okanga asked. If he is not a great noble, he will capture Jack alive and exchange for a considerable ransom. And if Jack is the heir of a great noble, he will kill Jack without hesitation to eliminate future troubles. This group of petty nobles, especially the heirs of great nobles, will let their men get rid of themselves if they are unhappy. I'm not a noble, but a pure-blooded pirate. Ha ha, I hope you can still be so hard-mouthed later. Okanga said with a smile. He had many ways to torture people. And these noble heirs are all soft persimmons, and they become soft shrimps once threatened. I'm not only hard-mouthed, but also have something harder. Do you want to let your mother taste it? Okanga's face turned black, and he immediately thought that Jack couldn't be a noble, and nobles wouldn't be so vulgar. And he hated people talking about his mother the most because his mother earned his first pot of gold by receiving customers. Catch him alive. I'm going to torture him to death. Okanga's tone was full of anger. As soon as the voice fell, before the 7 mercenaries took action, Jack turned over and jumped into the sea, leaving everyone confused. Just kidding, 7 mercenaries wearing leather armor and holding scimitars. Jack can't deal with them with his current strength. The military power in the Game of Thrones world is very low. There is no situation where one person fights dozens of people, and those who can fight 10 people are definitely the first-tier strongmen. Although Jack is very powerful now, he does not have strong swordsmanship and armor. If people are killed, they will die. Facing a group fight of many people, Jack without armor will be ambushed and killed by others if he is not careful. So Jack chose a more wise way. On the seabed, Jack came under the merchant ship. At this time, a fat Godzilla came to Jack in the dark seabed. After receiving Jack's instructions, Poseidon's dorsal fin emitted a blue light, and an atomic breath shot through the merchant ship, and Jack began to destroy the hull along the damaged area. The tsunami cut iron like mud, and the bottom of the ship was like paper. At this time, Okingo and the ship didn't understand what happened, and his merchant ship inexplicably had a hole. Okinga immediately asked the crew to check the leak in the cabin. Damn little bastard. Kinga knew without thinking that this was the work of the little bastard just now. He didn't know how he destroyed the hull. However, all Okinga did was just a dying struggle. The speed at which the hull was destroyed was far beyond Okinga's expectations. At this moment, Okinga was shocked and angry. He hurried into the cabin and found a small wooden box among many boxes. Holding the small wooden box, Okinga ran towards the spare raft on the ship. At this time, the sinking of the purple grape was a foregone conclusion. But as long as the dragon egg can be saved, if he can survive and sell it to the governor of Pentas, he can not only make back his money, but also expand his fleet. But before Okinga got close to the raft, a sharp spear pierced his heart. Okinga turned his head with difficulty and saw that the person who assassinated him was the mercenary he hired at a high price. Although mercenaries value reputation the most, now is not the time to talk about honesty. For a small mercenary group like theirs, survival is the most important thing. This raft is big enough for 7 of them, but the premise is to throw away the leather armor and weapons, and even not to bring supplies. But if they don't bring food and fresh water, they can't survive at all, and the 7 people looked at each other. In the end, someone couldn't help but attack the people around them. The 7 mercenaries fought in a group, and even the slaves on the ship began to join the battle. At this moment of life and death, all the ugliness of human nature was exposed. In order to survive, they could do anything. But Jack in the Sea set his sights on an old man. He saw this white, bearded old man on the ship before. Not only did he move goods on the ship, but he also had a nautical chart on his waist, looking like a navigator. Although he was a slave, Jack didn't care about his identity. And this white-bearded old man was also one of the first people to fall off the ship. Jack picked up a piece of driftwood and came to the old man, and then handed the driftwood to the old man. The old man immediately understood what Jack meant, and grabbed the driftwood tightly. Soon half of the purple grape merchant ship sank into the sea, and dozens of people on the ship were still fighting for the raft. With the heart of the ocean, the gills behind his ears can continuously provide him with oxygen, and it is even easier to stand in the sea than on land. So Jack is not in a hurry to harvest lives, but chooses to get close to the merchant ship in the sea to see if there is any cash or treasure. When the number of algae in the seawater is about the same as the light intensity, the visibility of normal people in the seawater is very low. The heart of the ocean helped Jack solve this problem, allowing Jack to still maintain a certain vision in the deep sea. Jack searched in the cabin, and many wooden boxes were surging in the cabin with the water flow, but Jack opened several in succession, all of which were spices. Although spices are also valuable, spices soaked in seawater are not valuable, and what Jack wants is cash. After searching for several minutes, Jack finally found a silk bag in the arms of a slave. The slave had fainted due to drowning, but he still held the money bag tightly in his arms. It seems that even in death, he will help the master protect the property, which is really touching. But Jack was moved, and he did not hesitate to pry open the slave's hand and took the bag. When he opened it, he found a pile of gold coins inside. Jack's eyes sparkled. There were at least 50 gold coins in this bag. His father's Sea Dog pirates had a peak asset of only 70 silver coins, and it only lasted for 1 day, and he went to the city to spend it that day. At this moment, Poseidon came to Jack with something in his mouth, his face full of praise. Jack curiously took the stone in Poseidon's mouth. The stone was scarlet in color, with countless snake-like protrusions on it. Is this a dragon egg fossil? No wonder 7 mercenaries were hired. It turned out that there were dragon eggs on the ship. Jack's face was shocked. He was not shocked by the dragon egg fossil itself. After all, he even had Godzilla, and he had seen many living dragons in American TV series. He was shocked by the value of the dragon egg. A dragon egg fossil could be sold for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of gold coins. In the original play, Daenerys' second brother Viserys, after discovering that his sister was out of his control, planned to steal the dragon egg and form his own army to march into Westeros. Although Jack believed that a fool like Viserys could not retake the Iron Throne even with the army of the Horse King, this did not prevent the value of the dragon egg from being shown. With this dragon egg fossil, Jack could buy several large ships and form a large pirate group. But how big it is depends on how much this dragon egg can be sold for. Things like dragon eggs are more of a collection value, and how much they can be sold for depends on how much the buyer is. In fact, the most resentful. No, it should be said that the most suitable buyer should be Daenerys after conquering the Slaver's Bay. She must be willing to pay a high price for this red dragon egg. If she is lucky enough, she may even get another red dragon. Putting the dragon egg in the bag, Jack came to the white-bearded old man and dragged him to the Sea Dog. As for the rest of the people, I'm very sorry. If they can meet a passing merchant ship, they may still be able to pick up a life. If not, then it can only become fish shit, because Jack just saw the raft turned into pieces in the fight. Taking the old man aboard his Sea Dog, Jack asked directly, "Are you a navigator? Can you read the sea chart?" Of course, otherwise a slave as old as me would have been sunk to the sea to feed the fish. The old man also took out a sheepskin sea chart. Hearing this, Jack immediately gave up the idea of sinking the old man into the sea. It can be seen that this old man is capable. Jack originally planned to throw the old man down directly if the old man was not a navigator. After all, the food on the boat was just enough for him to hold on to the next supply point. And he wasted a week because he got lost, so the food was not enough. Now he relies on fishing to make a living every day. Fortunately, Poseidon's atomic breath can also be used to light a fire. Otherwise, Jack might really have to eat sashimi. In this case, Jack would never raise an extra useless old slave. Jack used a knife to cut off the slave collar around the old man's neck. "What's your name?" The old man looked thoughtful and said uncertainly, "Rat, Bug, or Old Dog. I forgot. Just call me Old Dog. They all call me that." No, I won't call you Old Dog. This name is too insulting. Otherwise, why would I cut your slave collar?" "There are no slaves under the red flag." Jack said casually, "There are no slaves under the red flag, only useless slaves." The old man looked up and didn't find the red flag. He didn't understand what Jack meant, why there were no slaves under the red flag. "I'll call you Newgate from now on, this name is okay," Jack said. The old man was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect Jack to give him a name specifically. Slaves are generally not worthy of having names. Some are just lowly code names, such as bugs, rats, and the like. "Thank you. I didn't expect that I could not only survive, but also have a human name," Newgate said with some gratitude. A name made him feel a little bit of being a human being, not a lowly slave like livestock. "Master, where do you want to go?" "Don't call me master, call me captain. Go to Slaver's Bay." Jack corrected Newgate's address. "Okay, captain. I understand." Newgate knew Jack's purpose in saving him was to find a navigator. But Newgate still felt lucky after all. Being alive was better than anything else. He was already 50 years old this year, which was equivalent to 100 years old for free people among slaves. For him, every extra day he lived was a blessing from the gods. It must be said that Newgate has a wealth of knowledge of navigation. The Sea Dog has not taken any detours in the past month. They can always reach every supply point accurately. A week ago, System KK ran away. But before the system ran away, it gave Jack a box of instant noodles out of humanitarianism. Damn it, Jack felt that this system was just disgusting him before leaving, and actually gave him a box of instant noodles. But one thing is one thing. The instant noodles are really delicious. And the system ran away so long as Godzilla is there, he can still stand at the top of the world. Oh, gods! Every time I eat it, this doesn't seem like food from the human world. Newgate carefully tasted the instant noodles that Jack handed him. Yeah, the instant noodles at Little Raccoon's house taste good. Little Raccoon? These strange words. Read Little Raccoon. Newgate said curiously. That's right, Little Raccoon. By the way, do you know how much one Unsullied costs? Unsullied are not sold individually. Generally, the minimum is a 10-man team ranging from 270 gold to 300 gold. It depends on whether the slave owner wants to kill you. Sometimes at least 100 pieces are sold. Unsullied are not sold individually, and at least 10 pieces are sold. Jack looked shocked. He was not very clear about the price of Unsullied. He only knew that Unsullied were expensive, but he didn't know how expensive they were. According to the introduction in the original play, after Daenerys robbed Zero's palace and bought a ship, the remaining money could only buy about 100 at Unsullied. In the end, she used a young dragon to get 8,000 Unsullied. Of course, Daenerys' method is not realistic because Daenerys has a living dragon. And in the hundreds of years of history of Astapor, there has never been a person like Dane who doesn't keep any credit and directly gets something for nothing. This also led to the great benefactor of Astapor handing over the command of the Unsullied to Daenerys without reservation. The result is obvious. The great benefactor was careless and did not dodge, and was directly burned to death by Daenerys with dragon flames. In a sense, Daenerys is simply a perfect pirate. First robbed the palace of Zero, bought a ship, and then robbed the Unsullied of Astapor. Of course, maybe Dany didn't have this idea, but under various coincidences, the gods really gave her dragons and troops. Jack now has 312 gold coins in his hand, which he robbed in the past month. On average, a small merchant ship can provide him with about 10 gold coins. Even several small pirate groups wanted to follow Jack, but they were all rejected by Jack. For Jack, pirates are far less loyal and capable than slaves. This group of pirates only know how to be lazy and slippery. Seeing that Jack is relatively young, they want Jack to support them for free. "How long will it take us to Astapor?" Jack asked. "There's probably another month left. Your ship is running very fast. This is very strange. Logically, it would take us at least half a year to reach Slaver's Bay. Maybe I'm a lucky person favored by Poseidon. Maybe the goddess of the sea lifted her skirt for me." Jack didn't explain the existence of Poseidon to Newgate. Poseidon was more like a trump card for Jack, which could save his life at a critical moment. "This is really crazy. What kind of underwear does the goddess of the sea wear?" "Sorry, I don't mean to offend you." Newgate was no longer as reserved as he was at the beginning. He found that Jack was a very easygoing person, not as rude and brutal as a pirate. Probably white silk and thongs. That would be pure and sexy. I love it." Newgate didn't know what white silk and thongs were, but they must be very beautiful. The goddess of the sea couldn't wear ugly clothes. Just as Jack was driving the Sea Dog to Astapor, Westeros began to surge undercurrents. Since Robert Baratheon sat on the Iron Throne, the whole kingdom began to become restless. It was like an invisible black hand stirring up the storm behind the scenes, constantly creating chaos. Although Robert indulged in wine and sex all day after ascending the throne, it did not mean that his head was already filled with wine. He keenly sensed that something was wrong. Jon Arryn's death was too strange. Logically speaking, Jon Arryn could live another 5 years easily, but she suddenly fell ill and died. The most important thing was that Robert had not heard any rumors before, which was the most critical. When he got the news his adopted father Jon Arryn was already dead, in order to deal with the potential crisis, Robert chose to go to the cold and windy north to invite his best friend Eddard Stark. As the Duke of the North, Eddard Stark would undoubtedly help Robert share a large part of the pressure if he could serve as the hand of the king. A month later, the king and his family traveled all the way and finally arrived in the north. Even though they hadn't seen each other for many years, their relationship was still very good, but their children didn't seem to get along very well. However, the noble eldest daughter of Stark, Sansa Stark, seemed to have been fascinated by the handsome prince. But now no one knows that this handsome Prince Joffrey Baratheon is a tyrannical little monster. Just like Jack didn't know that the mooring fee in Astapor was 1 silver coin a day. "Damn it, Poseidon, how dare you ask me for a silver coin?" Jack cursed. "Captain, 1 silver coin is actually not bad. Astapor is mainly engaged in maritime trade. Slaves are their most valuable things, and they are also the cheapest things for merchants." Newgate explained to Jack, after the slaves are bought, they don't need to be paid wages, just give them a bite to eat so that they won't starve to death. So the cost of 1 silver coin is completely acceptable to merchants. Jack actually knows a little about this, just like the slave trade in the West in the previous life. The prosperity of the entire Essos was built on the corpses of slaves. The misery of the slaves' lives is far more tragic than imagined. As a New Age youth who grew up in the Celestial Empire, he has a lot of instinctive resistance to slavery. This is not to say that Jack is a saint, but that the education Jack has been exposed to for more than 20 years has made him instinctively resist slavery. However, Jack did not think of liberating slaves himself, because that was the job of the Mother of Dragons. His job is to build an invincible empire at sea, so that he can live his short life freely and luxuriously. Of course, if Daenerys is willing to pay enough, he doesn't mind providing Daenerys with some proven reform ideas. As for how to solve the king and the nobles, Rabbit's dragon slaying technique is written in the textbooks of the 9-year compulsory education. There are many good masters in Astapor, and Jack is going to find a small slave owner to buy the Unsullied, because it will be convenient to bargain. Take Newgate to find an inn, boss. 2 rooms. 4 silver coins. How much? Jack widened his eyes. It's not that Jack has no money, nor is it that Jack is stingy. But this is too expensive? Generally speaking, 2 rooms are at most 2 silver coins, and the normal price should be 1 silver coin. However, the innkeeper said confidently, "You can leave if you don't stay, but I guarantee that you will come to me in the end and then obediently hand over 4 silver coins." The innkeeper is very sure that his inn is the cheapest in this area. After all, he is the only one in this area who kills foreigners the lightest. They have their own way of looking at people, and they can almost tell whether a person is from the Slaver's Bay at a glance. Jack's eyes twitched, but he finally took out 4 silver coins. Damn, Astapor is so close to the sea. When my fleet becomes prosperous in the future, I will come to rob you every day. Just wait. Jack, who was broad-minded, remembered this grudge and decided to collect protection fees every 4 weeks in the future. Damn, you guys are not in the city, and you dare to ask for such a high price. The most famous thing in Slaver's Bay is the 3 cities of Meereen, but there are countless villages and towns around the 3 cities. At the same time, there are a large number of slave owners' manors here, and all kinds of valuable spices are planted inside the manors. As for food, it is generally grown by free people, and slave owners prefer to buy food from the Laza people. Captain, I can actually sleep on the floor, and there is no need to open 2 rooms. Jack waved his hand, indicating that Newgate didn't need to care. I don't lack this little money, but he dared to kill me, and that's his fault. Only pirates kill people, and beggars kill pirates. Newgate was touched. He thought Jack booked an extra room out of consideration for him. In fact, Jack had to pay for the room when he took his men on a business trip. Newgate, who was born a slave, was touched by any good thing. They will rest here tonight and go to the city to buy the Unsullied the next day. Then the 2 found a table in the hall, and Jack ordered 2 grilled sausages and toast. Jack almost got a stomachache from eating grilled fish and dry bread on the boat during this period. As a modern man reborn, he doesn't eat raw food like Poseidon. Or he can just stutter like Newgate. But Jack is very hypocritical. Now Jack has 700 gold coins in his hand. If he didn't have to drill through the bottom of the boat every time, he would definitely get more than that. But this situation will soon end. After buying the Unsullied, he will be able to buy a big ship for free and then rob on the sea. That's right, after Jack had enough Unsullied, the first thing he planned to do was to go to 0 yuan to buy some. Soon, the grilled sausages and bread came up. Even though Newgate had tasted hot pot and instant noodles, grilled sausages were still a rare delicacy for him. Just as the 2 were enjoying the food, a harsh laugh came over, making Jack's eyes twitch. How to describe it? It's like the scream of a male duck after being pecked on the butt by an old hen. Jack turned around and saw a shriveled old man holding a chain in his hand. At the other end of the chain was a teenage girl, with a broadsword similar to Tsunami's on her back. In addition to the girl, there were 2 Unsullied men wearing leather armor and holding short knives to protect the old man closely. Jack curled his lips, and for the sake of the 2 Unsullied, he would not argue with this old duck. The old man looked around and found that the hall was already full of people, and soon he set his sights on Jack and Newgate. The old man and the young man are obviously the easiest to bully. He led the girl to Jack and said, "Boy, go and share a table with others or go back to your room." Jack raised his eyebrows. Damn, he felt like he was easy to bully, right? There were 5 tables of people in the entire hall, but he chose his table. Newgate acted very calmly. There were groups of people at the other tables. There were only 2 of them, 1 old and 1 young. They looked very easy to bully. So this kind of thing is normal. You have to pick the soft persimmons. Old man, do you think you have 2 Unsullied ones? Just as Jack was about to pull out the tsunami, there was a bang and 2 gold coins hit the table. It just makes people respect the old and love the young. A smile appeared on Jack's face. The purchasing power of 2 gold coins was about the same as 20,000 yuan in later generations. Even taking into account the price of goods in ancient times, it may be even more. Jack felt that exchanging 2 gold coins for 1 seat was a good deal, not to mention that they had already finished their meal. He reached out to get the gold coins, but the old man suddenly reached out and took back the 2 gold coins. The old man had a mocking smile on his face. He was not a fool. He spent 2 gold coins to buy a seat, He just wanted to tease Jack. Young man, don't take it if it's not your own money. Otherwise it's stealing. I put my own money on the table. How can you take it? Jack's eyes twitched. Old guy, are you kidding me? Jack was extremely angry. This old man really thinks that two unsullied ones and a girl can protect him. It seemed that he could see Jack's anger. Eugene just enjoys the expression of others being angry but not being able to do anything to him, which gives him a sense of superiority. The other people in the hotel also looked at the excitement. This old man is a small slave owner nearby. Ever since he got the girl slave, he's become extremely jealous. The girl slave was originally the daughter of a slave in his manor. Later, the slave was beaten to death by him, and the old man planned to sell the girl. But I didn't expect that this girl was very powerful and knew how to use the appy without any teacher. One person could handle several adult slaves, so he was kept by old Eugene and showed off as a good dog. Yes, it is. Before Eugene could finish his sinister words, Jack's tsunami giant sword struck down. The Unsullied one next to him reacted quickly and immediately thrust out his short sword to deflect Jack's sword. However, he underestimated Jack's strength. Jack's physical fitness was about 3 to 4 times that of ordinary people. The Unsullied's dagger was no more than a piece of paper in front of the tsunami. In just an instant, Eugene was split into two by Jack, and the sharp tsunami cut people like tofu. Jack felt little resistance. As Eugene's body fell to the ground, the other two Unsullied rushed directly towards Jack. Even though his employer was dead, the loyal Unsullied still chose to take action against Jack. This is also one of the advantages of the Unsullied. They have no fear, no emotions, they only know obedience. Of course, the Unsullied are not incapable of being influenced, just like Daenerys did, throwing away the slave scepter. Then rely on personal charm to conquer the Unsullied, making them willing to fight for themselves. While Jack was fighting with the two Unsullied, the girl tilted her head and looked at everything curiously. Then she looked at Eugene's body on the ground, and a glimmer of light flashed in the girl's eyes. Newgate saw the right moment, made a sneak attack from behind, and pierced the heart of an Unsullied with his dagger. His old man can survive to this day, but he is not doing it for a living. Jack also killed another Unsullied who tried to fight him with his body skills. Wow, I can't tell. You are really quite capable. Newgate smiled and said, If I didn't have some skills, I would have died long ago. How could I have survived until your arrival? Jack was very useful to Newgate's flattery. After all, who doesn't like others to flatter him? This old man seems to be a slave owner. We have to leave first, otherwise there may be some trouble later. After all, the Unsullied are not just for sale. After speaking, Jack took out the money bag from Eugene and weighed it, at least 20 gold coins. Ignoring the stunned melon-eating crowd, Jack went straight to the hotel owner and knocked on the counter with Tsunami. I can't live here anymore. I want my money back. The hotel owner swallowed and took out 4 silver coins tremblingly. He didn't expect that this young man's fighting ability was so strong and that the 4-fingered sword could be swung like a branch. Are you kidding me? I gave you 4 gold coins. What do you mean by giving me 4 silver coins? Looking at Jack's playful eyes, the boss knew that he could only spend money to ward off the disaster today. Although the hotel also had guards, they were obviously not enough in front of Jack. After reluctantly handing 4 gold coins to Jack, Jack put away Tsunami and left with satisfaction. But when Jack passed by the little girl suddenly grabbed Jack's clothes. Jack frowned. This little slave couldn't bite. The dirty hair and face don't look good, so you won't blame yourself, right? The little girl's voice was hoarse, like a cigarette voice. My father said, whoever kills him will be my new master. The little girl looked at Jack firmly, and he was obviously referring to the slave owner. Jack curled his lips. Then your old father really knows how to scheme. Listen, girl, I killed that old man just because he was an ignorant villain, not to be your master. As for what your father said to you, I am not interested at all. After saying that, Jack slapped the girl's hand away, then turned and left. After Jack left, the girl froze in place and didn't know what she was thinking. A businessman who was also from outside came up with the idea that such a little girl could be sold to Yunkai for more than 5 silver coins. The businessman stood up and came to the little girl's side. That man doesn't like you. Now that your master is dead, you will definitely die if you go back. How about I find you a place to eat? As he said that, he reached out to check the girl's small breasts that were just starting to grow. When the girl saw the businessman's extended hand, her blank eyes instantly became sharp. He drew out the big sword from his waist and slashed with his waist, cutting the businessman in half. Then she dragged the big sword and ran in the direction where Jack left. She believed that what her father said must be right. The hotel owner happily stepped forward and plundered the merchants, earning at least 10 gold coins. "Everyone enjoys delicious food and drinks. I bought you the wine today," the boss said boldly. Everyone then gave up staring at the money bag in the boss's hand, and started talking loudly about what had just happened. This kind of thing is very common in Slaver's Bay, but it's rare to see someone as good as Jack. On the other side, Jack found that the girl was following her. He reluctantly tried to expel her several times, but all ended in failure. Jack really didn't want a little girl slave. After entering the sea, such a little girl would be much more attractive than Evelyn. Putting aside how much work he could do, Jack simply didn't want to raise an idle person. Especially as a girl, this may cause unnecessary trouble after going to sea. However, the little girl took the initiative and said, "My parents were both slaves, and my mother was humiliated to death by the slave owner in front of my father. Since then, my father has told me that whoever can kill the slave owner is my master." At this time, Newgate came close to Jack's ear and said, "This girl looks a little stupid." His father's intention should be for her to actively sell herself to the big slave owner and then let the big slave owner kill the old man. After speaking, Newgate glanced at the big sword on the girl and continued, "There should be something extraordinary about this girl, otherwise her father would not have such an idea, and he would not let the slave owner chain him up and show it around." Newgate had been a slave for 50 years and knew a few things. A slave owner would never be so bored as to lead an ordinary slave around. Unless there is something extraordinary about this slave that can make the slave owner feel very proud, only then did Jack begin to look at the little girl carefully. She was not as thin as other slaves, but very well proportioned, which showed that the slave owner did not starve her. Wearing burlap clothes, there is a leather collar around his neck, connected to a chain as thick as a finger. There is also a giant sword that is almost as tall as himself in his hand. Is there blood on the sword? Did you kill someone just now?" Jack suddenly asked. The little girl nodded and told what had just happened without reservation. Jack's eyes widened in surprise. He didn't expect that the little girl's sword was not a decoration. With Newgate's explanation, Jack decided to let the little girl follow him. This little girl seemed to be quite talented with the épée. If you train her well, she might become your right-hand man in the future. But this girl looks a bit like a melon. "Okay then, just follow me. What's your name?" "Little Mule." "Puppy?" Jack asked in surprise. "Yes, others say that when I get my first period, I will become a real puppy. It's really disgusting. Listen up. From now on, you will be called Vitril. This is a very nice name. As for the previous title, don't mention it again." Newgate looked at Vitril with a kind face. "Why don't you quickly thank the captain?" "Thank you, master." Even though Vitril was weak, she could still tell that the name sounded nice. Jack took out the dagger from his waist and removed the collar from Vitril's neck. "You don't need to call me master, just like everyone else. Call me captain." Newgate echoed. "The captain said that there should be no slaves under the red flag, although I still don't know what this sentence means. But from today on, you are no longer a slave." Jack didn't expect that his casual joke would be written down by Newgate. Vettel stared blankly at the collar that fell on the ground, and then said, "You opened the collar on my neck. Am I free now?" "Yes, you are free. How do you feel? If you want to leave, I won't stop you," Jack said. Who knows that Vitril shook her head. "They all say I'm stupid, but I'm not stupid at all. Most of the time, I'm very smart. If I leave, how can I eat?" Jack said that this simple reason was so real. Even Newgate was surprised by this simple reason. Slaves like this often don't live too long unless they meet a good master. The sky is dotted with stars, and the moonlight mixed with the cold wind covers the world. At this time, in the carriage that Jack borrowed casually, Vitril shrank into Jack's arms to resist the cold. The carriage had no roof, just a wooden board with 2 wheels and some straw. Newgate, who was driving at this time, was sleepy-eyed, but he still whipped the bad horse from time to time. They wanted to reach Astapor as soon as possible. "I hope I can sleep in a warm hotel tonight." At this time, Jack was enduring the peculiar smell coming from Vitril and was counting the stars in the sky out of boredom. He already knew the time on the road. At this time, Westeros was in the time when Stark had just gone to King's Landing in Aegon Chronicles 2. At this time, Longman had just been sold to Macrong by her second brother. She was still an innocent little girl, dreaming of living happily in Pantos forever. However, her second brother Viserys Targaryen's desire to restore his kingdom is far stronger than Daenerys imagined, As Vitril said, let alone the Horse King, even if all the warriors and horses under the Horse King sidelined her, Viserys didn't care. Just when Jack also entered a sleepy state, Newgate's voice suddenly came, "Captain, we have arrived in Astapor." "Huh? Are you here?" Jack woke up immediately. Astapor lies at the mouth of a winding river, known to the Astaporians as the Worm River, which flows from the east into Slaver's Bay. To the south of Astapor are the Giscari Mountains, within which the ancient ruins of Dax are hidden. On the Cedar Island west of Astapor, the declining Giza and Varos face each other across the sea. Astapor was the southernmost slave city in Slaver's Bay. Yunkai lies 100 leagues to the north. Meereen 50 leagues away. Travelers with good horseback riding can reach Yunkai from Astapor in 6 days, following the ancient Giscari coastal way. At this time, Astapor did not close the city gate as it entered the night. For Astapor, the 9,000 Unsullied in the city are enough to destroy any invading enemies. Even the Dothraki. Astapor is an ancient city, but its population is not what it once was. Astapor's most famous building is the Step Pyramid, the tallest of which is 400 feet tall. Various trees, vines, and flowers are planted on the pyramid, and at dusk the benefactors light up silk lanterns of various colors. Yachts cruise in the Worm River. All streets are made of red bricks. Also built of red bricks are the stepped pyramid, the amphitheater dug deep into the ground with a circle of gradually descending seats, the sulphurous fountain pool, the dark wine shop, and the ancient wall surrounding the city. There was fine red dust in the air, and when the breeze blew, the dust flew along the gutter. While driving the carriage, Newgate introduced this ancient city to Jack. In the end, the three of them chose a hotel that seemed more reliable. After booking 2 single rooms, the boss gave them a large bucket of hot water for free at Jack's request. Jack handed Newgate a silver coin and asked him to buy some little girl's clothes. He took Vitril to take a bath and washed himself by the way. The smell on the pirate's body was simply indescribable, just like when Evelyn was just brought back from the sheepfold by his father. It even smells a lot worse. Oh man. Speaking of Evelyn, Jack had to get the deal done quickly. He only had 3 days of food left for Evelyn. Vitril didn't seem to like bathing very much, but under Jack's order, she still let Jack handle it honestly. Damn it, Jack felt that after taking a shower, Vitril was at least 2 pounds lighter and her muddy balls were falling down like rain. However, the results of taking a bath were obvious. After washing, Vitril did not feel very beautiful. It can only be said that she is relatively delicate, but her eyes as bright as evening stars are still a plus. To be honest, Jack was a little disappointed. He also expected that the little lowly he picked up would be a beautiful beauty, but the fact is that slaves' children were rarely beautiful. "Have I let you down?" Vitril suddenly asked. "No, of course not." Jack quickly denied that he was really satisfied with Vitril. Jack felt that in the future he would be able to gain a personal secretary who was both capable and capable. But Vitril obviously meant something different from Jack. "I may not be pretty enough, Captain, but my mother taught me a lot of bed skills, and I can make it easy for you." When Jack heard this, he pinched Vitril's little face and said, "This little girl knows a lot. You should wait 2 years to talk about this kind of thing. You are too young." Vitril pursed her lips. "I know, but you have become like this. I think I can help you relieve it. My mother told me that when men become like this, it's women's turn." Jack's eyes suddenly widened a bit. "You don't need to solve this problem. I will find a cheap chick to solve this matter." With that said, Jack turned and left to get the clothes Newgate had just given. Vitril frowned and looked at Jack's back, biting her lip. Her mother said that when a man makes excuses not to touch you, it means that he is tired of your body, but Jack has obviously never touched her body. Is it possible that he got tired of her body after giving her a bath? The next day, Jack found a small benefactor, Hago Vesely, after much inquiry. There are at least hundreds of benefactors in Astapor, among which the big benefactors have thousands of Unsullied, while the small benefactors often have only dozens. In addition, there are various slaves such as bed slaves, skill slaves, and ship slaves in Astapor, which just saves Jack's time to go to Yunkai and Meereen. After the introduction of the informant, Jack met this benefactor in Pride Square. Amber skin, wide nose, black eyes, and dark red hair. Very typical appearance of Astapor. Most Astapor people are descendants of the ancient Gis. Most of them have amber skin, wide nose, black eyes, and black or dark red hair, or the red and black mixed hair unique to the ancient Gis. Free Astapor nobles are accustomed to wearing talker robes, which is a symbol of nobility. Their hair is greasy and oddly shaped, and they also have yellow silk cloaks with copper plates sewn on them, representing their status. Their robes are embroidered with silk threads, and they wear sandals and pleated linen skirts below the waist. "Hello, are you Jack Poseidon?" "Yes, I heard that you have some Unsullied, and the price is quite suitable, so I came to take a look." Jack also speaks Valyrian. Although he can't write, there is absolutely no problem in communication. This is one of the few things his father can teach him. Of course, the price is absolutely cheap. "I wonder how much you want to buy." 700 gold coins? 700 gold coins? "Okay, my Unsullied are outside the Pride Square. I'll take you to see it." Hago said with a smile. 700 gold coins are a big deal for a small slave owner like him. Newgate explained to Jack, "Astapor has 3 famous squares: Pride Square, Punishment Square, and Arena. Pride Square is an open market where slave owners bring their customers to watch their slaves. In the center of the square is a red brick fountain with a bronze statue of the Astapor harpy on it. Punishment Square, it is located inside the main gate of Astapor. Punishment Square is where new slaves are brought into the city. Those rebellious slaves will be punished or executed there. The arena is a place for entertainment activities, including girls fighting bulls, letting children covered with honey and other food fight bears, and the spectators will bet on which child the bear will eat first. Then the arena will be named after the owner of the victorious slave." Jack's eyelids twitched. No wonder Daenerys wanted to liberate this place. For free people and nobles, this is heaven. But for slaves, hell may be better than this. Fortunately, Daenerys has not received the education that Jack has experienced. Otherwise, she will definitely nail all the slave owners to the cross, and no one can persuade her. "I have 62 Unsullied in my hand. I will give you 25 gold coins each, a total of 28 Unsullied, and then I will give you 2 bed slaves and ship slaves. You're welcome," Hago said confidently. No one sells Unsullied cheaper than him. Normally, an Unsullied is at least 27 gold coins, and he only wants 25 gold coins, which is a very sincere price indeed. Unsullied are castrated slave warriors who have been trained in Astapor since childhood. They are characterized by absolute obedience to their masters and fearlessness in the face of war. They are widely used as guards in the free trade cities. They are sold by 100 or 1,000, and of course, small slave owners will sell them by 10. They are excellent guards and never rob or rape. They have their own unique beliefs and goddesses. They keep the real name of the goddess as a secret, and outsiders call them the Lady of Spears, the Bride of War, and the Matron of the Army. The most famous battle of the Unsullied was the Battle of Qohor, where only 3,000 Unsullied resisted the attack of more than 50,000 elite soldiers led by Atimo Kal. Jack did not speak, but looked at the group of Unsullied carefully, just like an American TV series. There are no decorations on the Unsullied's attire. Sewn tunics, short swords, 3 spears, shields, and spiked helmets are all. The more spikes on the spiked helmet, the higher the level of the wearer. 1 spike represents an ordinary soldier, and 3 spikes represent a senior officer. Seeing that Jack didn't speak, Hago thought that Jack was thinking, so he started to introduce Jack. "We select young male slaves according to their size, speed, and strength, and train them to be Unsullied. The training starts at the age of 5, from dawn to dusk, every day. The training process is very cruel. Not only do they teach them how to fight, but they also erase all their personalities, emotions, and egos. They are completely castrated, and the castrated parts will then be burned to ashes in the altar of the Lady of the Spear. They take courage wine regularly to reduce pain. Every day, they randomly draw name tags from a barrel to decide their names for the day. Each name tag has 2 words, one for color and one for worms, such as gray worm. As long as one of the training fails, the slave will be killed. In the end, only 1/3 of the slaves can persevere to the end and become Unsullied. On the day a boy is castrated, he will be given a puppy to raise. At the end of the first year of training, the boy must strangle the puppy. If he fails, he will be killed and his body will become dog food. During the training process of running with weights all day, climbing rocks at night, walking through burning charcoal, etc., if he fails, he will be eliminated. Finally, in order to get the spiked helmet of the Unsullied, they must wear a silver mask and go to the slave market. Then buy a newborn and kill it in front of its mother, and finally compensate the slave owner of the newborn for his loss. Jack took a deep breath. It's a very complete training system. No wonder they are so powerful. I bought it. This is the deposit. Jack threw a bag of gold coins into Hago's arms and then gave Hago an address. You bring the Unsullied here tomorrow to complete the transaction. You know, we only have one old man and one child. It's not safe to carry 700 gold coins. Hago weighed the purse in his hand and then smiled. Of course I understand. There's no need to be so troublesome. I'll take the Unsullied with you. 700 gold coins are worth Hago's trip. Thank you. We'll set off now. My lamb is waiting for me on the boat. After that, Hago asked Jack to select 28 Unsullied, and then sent 2 bed slaves and boat slaves. These 2 bed slaves are virgins. I'll give them to you, Hago said generously. There's no way. For small lords like them, no one will often come to them to buy Unsullied, because there are always people who suspect that their Unsullied are not strong in combat. But in fact, they are all trained in the same way. The 2 bed slaves were pretty good looking, with very white skin, and looked like the sheep man lots of people. As for the 2 ship slaves, they were young men under 20 years old who looked very capable and suitable for doing some odd jobs on the ship. Jack and Hago and their group quickly left Astapor and came to the port outside the city. After asking Newgate to take the 2 ship slaves to move the wooden box containing the gold coins down, Hago carefully counted the gold coins. Then he handed the command scepter of the Unsullied to Jack, and after confirming that it was correct, he asked his slaves to move the gold coins onto the carriage. Happy transaction. Remember to come to me next time you buy Unsullied. Happy transaction. Jack smiled and said goodbye to Hago. Then Jack asked the 28 Unsullied loudly, Who is the commander? I am, master. An Unsullied with 2 spikes on his head stepped forward. What's your name? I don't have a name, master. The Unsullied still replied loudly. You will be called Kaido from now on. Let your men give themselves a more normal name and call me captain from now on. Understood? Jack looked at the command scepter in his hand and asked, Can I still command you without this thing? Kaido replied without hesitation, Yes, you have already bought us. This command scepter is just a symbol of the transaction. We will still obey your command without it. Jack immediately understood after listening to Kaido's explanation that this command scepter is just a symbol. It can not only be a scepter, but also anything else, which only represents the completion of the transaction. After hearing Kaido's guarantee, Jack threw the command scepter into the sea. He is not Daenerys. After throwing away the command scepter, Daenerys promised that the Unsullied could choose to leave or fight for her. This is undoubtedly a gamble. If the Unsullied really leave Dany, then Dany will be blind and will definitely regret her breasts. He took everyone on the Sea Dog. More than 30 people were a bit crowded on the Sea Dog, and they needed to buy it quickly. Jack cut off the slave collars of the 2 ship slaves and put on shabby sailor clothes for them, finally making them look like sailors. As a ship slave, the driving skills of the ship are basic skills. Jack handed the 2 people to Newgate, hoping that Newgate could train 2 excellent navigators for him. As for the 2 bed slaves, Jack also cut off their collars, making them free people and serving as maids on the Sea Dog. But before that, Jack had to check their bodies, and Ellie and Yacker followed Jack into the cabin obediently. The master was a young and handsome boy. For them, as bed slaves, there was nothing more fortunate than this. Newgate naturally took on the duties of the ship's deputy and explained the origin of the Sea Dog to everyone. Captain Jack Poseidon is a kind captain, but he is also a professional pirate. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because Captain Jack is easy to talk to, otherwise I will cut off the head of the insolent first. There are 3 rules on the Sea Dog. First, absolutely obey Captain Jack's orders. Second, never question Captain Jack's orders. Third, absolutely abide by the above 2 rules. Understand? Understood? Everyone answered quickly. They were originally slaves, and listening to the master was a basic quality. Even if Jack had cut off their slave collars, they still thought they were Jack's slaves. Many slave owners would do this because it would show their kindness and goodness. But if the slave really thought he was a free man, then the slave would definitely die miserably. Your smile is the smile of the sea embracing the island, the smile of the stars jumping on the waves, the smile of the coconut trees covering the coconuts, and your smile makes the night run away. Thank you, Captain. You are so gentle. Ellie snuggled in Jack's arms. It has been 2 days since Jack returned to the sea. After training every day, Jack likes to hug Ellie or Yager on the deck and tell them earthy love words. And Vitril always follows him with Haxleshia. She has become Jack's sword servant. Hey, Yager, come to my arms, Jack called. Yacker put down the things in his hands and came to Jack. "Captain, I still have a lot of clothes to wash." "Oh, just throw away those old clothes. Come back and buy new ones." "You know, I like the sea at first. But later I liked you. You have the breath of the sea, and you have what the sea doesn't have. You are considerate and naughty." Yaxa's different from Ellie. Ellie is lively, but Yaxa's introverted and doesn't talk much. Although Yager can quickly get into the mood in bed, she still prefers to work quietly. For example, wash clothes, or prepare dinner for the master. Just when Jack was about to continue teasing Yager, Newgate suddenly came to Jack. "The target was found, Captain, but what?" Jack frowned. "That is a large merchant ship with an estimated length of 60 to 70 meters with at least 40 to 50 guards. I'm afraid it's not easy to deal with." Although there is maritime trade in the Game of Thrones world, the real ocean-going maritime trade is not developed, so the tonnage of the ship is not large. Merchant ships of 60 to 70 meters are already at the ceiling level, and warships are basically no more than 50 meters. In order to ensure speed, the warships in the Game of Thrones world are basically between 30 and 40 meters, ensuring manning capacity while ensuring speed. More commonly used are long ships of more than 10 meters. Merchant ships pursue cargo capacity, resulting in large tonnage and slow speed, which are easily caught up by pirates. So, there are generally more guards on large merchant ships. However, Jack doesn't care about this at all. "Haha, who do you think I am? Pull the boat over." "Understood." Newgate immediately took 2 apprentices to adjust the direction and rush towards the location of the merchant ship. In the deep sea, dozens of meters below the Sea Dog, Poseidon was escorting the Sea Dog. Poseidon could not only sense Jack's position, but also Jack's thoughts, and so did Jack. There was a very special spiritual connection between them, which was related to the system that ran away. And because Poseidon followed Jack around all day, he exercised a lot every day. But the good thing was that his appetite increased, and he grew faster and stronger. At this time, Poseidon was 1.2 meters long from head to tail, and his teeth and skin became much tougher. Without atomic breath, it was not a problem to deal with a dozen adults on land. Sometimes Jack thought, if the system gave him an adult Godzilla, how good it would be. He would directly sweep across the 7 kingdoms and the 9 free trade cities. Unfortunately, fantasy is like an adult Godzilla, but reality is like the little you, Evelyn. On the other side, the merchant ship also found the Sea Dog approaching. At this time, the Sea Dog did not hang the pirate flag, but it still aroused their vigilance. Yevgeny looked at the Sea Dog vigilantly. As a mercenary, the most basic vigilance should be maintained. Otherwise, he would have been killed long ago by the group of drunkards under his command. However, the owner of the ship didn't care. Mithula said nonchalantly, "Don't be nervous, this is just a 10-meter boat. We can easily crush them." Don't underestimate this small boat. In order to pursue speed, pirates often squeeze 20 to 30 people on a boat of more than 10 meters. "Boy," Mithila sneered, and then teased, 30 people. Do they take off their clothes and squeeze together when they sleep in the cabin at night? Then they will definitely not sleep sideways, otherwise his good brothers may have negative contact with him. As he said, he hugged a naked woman and left, and boasted as he walked, "Not everyone is as rich as me to bring women and wine on the sea, just a group of poor ghosts." Mithila is the second largest merchant in Korth, after the 13 giants, and he is even confident that he will replace Zero as the new 13 giants by the end of this year. The power of that fat black man is no longer worthy of being the giant of Korth. This newly built rose is not something that anyone can touch. Looking at Mithila's back, Yevgeny curled his lips. These nobles were like arrogant male dogs, which was disgusting. But the girl in his arms was really good. If it weren't for the reputation of mercenaries, he would have even thought of hijacking the ship. But unfortunately, there were not only his people on the ship, but also Memphila's professional guards. There were a total of 60 guards on the ship, of which only 25 were his teammates. Turning his attention back to the sea, Wardfa, Yevgeny's eyes widened. At this time, the small boat had disappeared. It was just a few dozen meters away from them. It's only been less than a few minutes, and the boat disappeared. At this time, the Sea Dog was below the Rose. With a Poseidon engine, the Sea Dog was very maneuverable, and the Rose was too huge, and Yevgeniev didn't notice it for a while, because Yevgeniev could never imagine that a ship could sail so fast. Just when Yevgeny was wondering, more than a dozen flying tiger claws were hung on the railing of the ship. Yevgeny felt something was wrong and wanted to look out to see the situation. Whoosh! A sharp arrow slid past his scalp. Oh shit! Yagami covered his head and turned back to shout loudly. There are pirates! There are pirates! Get weapons! Hearing Yevgeny's shout, the slaves on the ship were stunned for a moment, then quickly looked for cover, and the guards quickly gathered. On the other side, Jack shook his head in disappointment. His archery skills were still not good enough. He was clearly aiming at the head of the man just now. He jumped into the sea suddenly. With the help of Poseidon, Jack jumped from the sea and directly crossed 2/3 of the height. The remaining small section of distance was easy for Jack. Just when Jack just stuck his head out, a group of guards were holding knives and preparing to cut the rope. Hey man, hello, can you lend me some honey bread? Jack was a little embarrassed. Who knows his family? As soon as he showed his head, there were more than a dozen people holding scimitars. The guards looked at each other and immediately rushed up to crack Jack's head, but Jack was faster and flipped onto the deck with force. Wait, everyone, I have no ill intentions. Our ship is leaking, so I have to do this. Please believe me, okay? Yagami pouted and nodded. If you weren't wearing leather armor and the big sword and shield behind you, I might really believe you. Kill him, Yevgeny ordered without hesitation. He saw that Jack wanted to delay time. Fuck, what bad luck. Jack leaned against the guardrail holding a shield in one hand and a sword in the other. Relying on his own strong strength, he waved the tsunami like a branch. For a while, no one dared to step forward. Just kidding. A few hundred copper coins a month? What's the point of risking your life? Get your bows! Yevgeny roared with a dark face. Is the big sword in this guy's hand made of bread? It's so light. 15 archers quickly drew their bows and aimed at Jack. Yevgeny gave an order, and Jack quickly protected his upper body with a shield, and at the same time, Haetson blocked his crotch. Ah! Jack screamed in pain. Tears almost came out. Damn. He felt like he had become the spear of vengeance Callista, because he was full of arrows. Yevgeny frowned. Is this person looking for death? You know, if you are hit by 11 arrows in the sea, you basically can't survive, just bleeding to death. At this time, the first group of Unsullied climbed up, and Jack turned over and jumped into the sea without saying a word. After entering the sea, a cool feeling came, and the pain was greatly relieved. Pulling out the 11 arrows on the body, the wound healed quickly. In just a few seconds, the wound was restored to its original state, and Jack was not surprised. He had tested his recovery speed in the ocean before, otherwise he would not have dared to climb onto the Rose alone. After recovering from his injuries, Jack boarded the Rose again. At this time, the Unsullied were already fighting with the guards on the Rose. However, the Unsullied were still quite powerful. Even though the number of opponents was twice their own, they still had the upper hand with their formation. The resurrected Jack joined the battle with tsunami in hand. Because of the heart of the ocean, Jack fought very hard. For Jack, as long as he protected the vital parts, he would not suffer any damage. Of course, it was still painful, but when fighting, adrenaline would help Jack offset most of the pain. At this time, Fourier in the cabin was still drinking wine calmly. In his eyes, the pirates above his head were not a concern. Puff! Jack inserted tsunami into the chest of the last guard. At this time, all the guards on the ship had been solved. Kaido, take people to clean up the cabin and kill those who dare to resist. Okay, Kaido led 10 Unsullied to the cabin, while Jack took the remaining 18 Unsullied and threw all the bodies into the sea. He couldn't let the blood pollute his new ship. After cleaning up the bodies on the deck, Kaido also escorted a group of people to the deck. I am the 13th Lord of Kars. You can't kill me. I can give you money, and I can also give you this merchant ship. Maphiro was no longer as calm as before. He never thought that the 60 guards on the ship were not the opponents of this group of pirates. There are two types of pirates. One is a pirate who specializes in robbing passing merchant ships. The other is a pirate who robs coastal areas. In the world of Game of Thrones, pirates are basically the latter. Few pirates choose to rob passing merchant ships, because there is basically no money on merchant ships, only goods. And pirates are not good at turning goods into cash, which leads to the fact that pirates in the world of Game of Thrones basically choose to rob coastal areas. For example, the Greyjoy family in Westeros firmly believes that force is better than hard work, so they often plunder the western coastal areas of Westeros. Jack is more inclined to the latter because it is not easy to plunder merchant ships. For example, if Jack had not delayed the guards, and the guards on the ship underestimated the enemy, the Unsullied would have had no chance to board the ship. Of course, if the two ships are of similar size, it will be easier. You can use the crossbow to break the mast and cable and then conduct a boarding battle after the ship loses power. Jack was too lazy to listen to Mephira's cries and was not interested in Mephira's identity. He directly killed Mephira's throat with a sword and threw her body into the sea. It's really stupid. If I kill you, this ship will also be mine. Jack completely controlled the Rose and then learned from the ship's deputy that the Rose was 68 meters long and 24 meters wide. It was a giant merchant ship that Mira had customized in Braavos, and this was her first time going out to sea. Jack's eyes lit up. He didn't expect it was a new ship. This was really a bargain. The cost of this ship was less than 100,000 gold dragons. You should know that the Royal Navy built by Robert before cost millions of gold dragons, but they were generally warships of about 20 to 30 meters. The cost of a warship over 40 meters will increase geometrically with the expansion of the hull, and its keel and other materials have very strict requirements. In addition, Jack not only got a top merchant ship, but the spices carried on the merchant ship were even more valuable, with a value of 40,000 gold dragons. At this time, there were more than 100 slaves on the ship. Jack cut off their slave collars and took them in as sailors. The monthly salary of 3 silver coins and the treatment of food and accommodation made them regain their enthusiasm for life and work harder. After all, they were originally slaves, and even if Captain Jack didn't pay them, they still had to work. They were still working, but now they had money to get, so they would naturally work harder. And those who were lazy at work would be put on slave collars again because Captain Jack didn't want slaves. So those who were put on collars again would be sold to Slave Bay and returned to a life worse than pigs and dogs. This was the important reason why they worked so hard. After taking the other people on the Sea Dog to the new ship, Jack asked Poseidon to destroy the Sea Dog, which was more than 10 meters long. This old ship, which had drifted on the ocean for 20 years, completely sank to the bottom of the sea with the memory of its predecessor. Jack renamed the Rose to the Sea King and established the first maritime kingdom, Atlantis. At the same time, all the Korth logos on the ship were erased and replaced with a Godzilla logo. Although Godzilla on the flag was blurry due to technical reasons, it was enough to have a general appearance. Finally, Jack appointed Newgate as the hand of the king, which moved Newgate to tears. He never dreamed that he could jump from a slave to the king's hand. Kaido was also very excited. He went from a slave to a Navy admiral. Even though the Unsullied had been trained to the point of almost losing their emotions, the change of identity once again aroused his passion for life. With the Poseidon as a base, Jack began to conduct simple training for the sailors on the ship to ensure that they could basically follow orders. After selling all the spices on the ship, Jack could transform the Poseidon into a maritime base, then slowly grow and develop, taking the first step in establishing his maritime empire. At the same time, Daenerys, who was far away in Pentos, had already played poker on the beach with Khal Drogo. Daenerys was suffering from Drogo's attack while she was crying. She didn't understand why her second brother did this to her. Obviously, he was her only relative, but he said such unbearable words that could make the whole Centaur tribe play with him. Soon, for Daenerys, the hellish wedding night was over, and Drogo also began to return to Horse King City with his 40,000 Dothraki roaring warriors. They need to return to Horse King City first, and then take time to go to Westeros to take back something called the Iron Throne. Drogo doesn't think that anyone in Westeros can stop him. He is full of confidence. If Jack is asked to comment, Jack can only say that he doesn't know how to live or die. Vozirin is also a fool, naively thinking that 40,000 Dothraki cavalry can help him take back the Iron Throne. In the Seven Kingdoms, the elite of the Westerlands can compete with the Horse King by relying on the geographical advantage. What's more, if the Horse King invades, it will definitely not only face the Westerlands, but the entire Westeros. 6 months passed quickly, and on this day, Daenerys once again couldn't bear to snatch a witch from the hands of the Horse King's subordinates. And this matter also came to Drogo, but it should be said that the Horse King really dotes on Daenerys and directly angered his subordinates to fight with him. However, there is a reason why Drogo can be called the Horse King. Apart from the fact that he was stabbed in the chest because of disdain, he beheaded the challenger with almost no effort. At this time, the witch proposed to apply herbs to the Horse King to prevent the wound from getting infected, which was considered to repay Daenerys' kindness. Drogo's blood riders objected, but they could not resist Drogo's pampering of Dany, so they let the witch apply herbs, which directly led to his death. Only 2 weeks later, Drogo was so weak that he fell off his horse, and this incident directly caused the entire Khals to surge undercurrents. A group of Dothraki people, united by a group of tribes, are called Khals. The leader of the strongest tribe is called Khal, and the leaders of the other tribes are called Ko, who are Khal's deputy. And now Khal Drogo actually fell off his horse. For the centaurs, those who can't even control horses are not worthy of being Khal, let alone being called the Horse King. In order to save the Horse King, Daenerys once again chose to believe the witch and exchanged her own child for the Horse King's life. The Horse King was indeed rescued, but he became a vegetable. The witch told Dany that when the sun rises in the west and sets in the east, your husband will wake up. This witch has always remembered her hatred for centaurs, and she didn't take Daenerys' rescue into her mind at all. Then the entire cause fell apart, and only a handful of people were willing to follow Daenerys. This is the first time the Dragon Queen pays for her kindness, and of course it won't be the last time. In the end, Daenerys suffocated Drogo, who had become a vegetative state, with a pillow, and then tied the witch to a log. He burned himself, Drogo, the 3 dragon eggs, and the witch in fire all night long. At dawn the next day, it was as if the ancient prophecy had been confirmed. Blood and fire come from the same source. Exchange lives for lives. Forzieren is dead. Drogo is dead. The child is dead. 3 lives were exchanged for 3 new lives. Sigh. The neighing sound of the young dragons is still very immature, but it does not prevent everyone from imagining how domineering they will look like when they grow up. Daenerys took her young dragons and people on the journey again. Dragons are powerful, but that only happens when you grow up. If you can't get out of the Red Wasteland, it's all meaningless. Where's you? Slaver's Bay, Port Astapor, aboard the Poseidon. 4098, 499, 500. Awesome, Captain, you are so strong. Ellie praised Jack on his back. At this time, Vitril, Ellie, and Yacker were sitting cross-legged on Jack's back. This was Jack's daily training, weighted push-ups. Although the injection of serum strengthened his body about 3 times, Jack still did not give up training. The stronger the foundation, the stronger you will be after strengthening, and the stronger you will be after training. After Jack stood up, Ellie and Jaeger quickly picked up the towels prepared to wipe Jack's sweat. But Vitril still stood there, stupidly holding Tsunami in her arms. At this moment, Newgate came back. All the cargo on the Poseidon had been digested, and a total of 36,000 gold coins had been obtained. Although it was 4,000 gold coins less than expected, this was a business without capital, and all the spices were stolen. And these 36,000 gold coins were exchanged by Jack for 1,200 Unsullied. Those damn good people actually set the price at 30 gold coins for an Unsullied one. But it doesn't matter. These will belong to you sooner or later, so you should keep them in Astapor first. And Jack's first plundering target was not Slaver's Bay nor other coastal towns in Essos, but Qarth, the seaside city that connects the east-west trade of Essos. Qarth's defense is not strong, making it Jack's best target. But before that, he needs to buy a batch of clippers within 20 meters for 0 yan. Otherwise, with the speed of the Poseidon, the Qarthian army would have been assembled by the time it approached Qarth. Jack took 300 Unsullied and wandered around Slaver Bay. During the past 6 months, Jack not only digested the cargo on the ship, but also transformed the Poseidon under the command of Newgate. The transformed Poseidon sacrificed its defense capabilities and strengthened its manning capacity and sailing speed. At the same time, Jack also installed a chain from the bottom of the bow of the Poseidon. This chain is used to let Poseidon exercise, and can also speed up the sailing speed of the Poseidon, which can be said to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Now the 3.2 meter long Poseidon has a certain strength and can fully assume the role of a multifunctional submarine in the Navy. The watertight compartment of the ship is useless in front of Poseidon, which means that Atlantis is not afraid of any naval encirclement. Jack wants to bring all 1,200 Unsullied, and at least 30 ships of more than 20 meters are needed. And Jack thinks he is not a capitalist. He needs 60 medium-sized warships. But he had no money to buy warships, so he could only buy merchant ships on the sea for free, and then use the money he robbed to transform the merchant ships. Jack's idea was to expand the Unsullied in the team to 3,000 people first, and then slowly replace the merchant ships with professional warships. At the same time, Jack also needed to choose an island and build his own shipyard on the island, so as not to be strangled by others. A month passed in a flash. During this period, Jack robbed 24 suitable merchant ships and transformed them into warships. Although it was still far from the target of 60 ships, Slave Bay could no longer stay. The robbery during this period had caused Slave Bay to lose a lot of gold coins, so that the 3 cities of Slave Bay joined forces to launch a siege against the Sea Emperor. For Jack, A Sea Emperor plus 24 medium-sized ships could already take more than 1,000 Unsullied away. There was no need to confront the siege fleet head-on, just run away. The remaining ships could be collected slowly on the road. On the route to court, there would inevitably be merchant ships coming and going. At this time, under the Poseidon, whose body length has reached 3.5 meters, has just returned from hunting. He consciously put the chain on himself and swam hard. With the help of Poseidon, the sailing speed of the entire Atlantis has also increased. If they plunder while walking, it is estimated that they can reach Corsa in 3 months. After robbing court, Jack will have enough money to complete his first stage goal. 3 months later, at night, the Poseidon has arrived near the waters of Kars. In the cabin of the Poseidon, which is like a palace, a red dragon egg is being roasted on charcoal. Since obtaining this dragon egg, Jack has been roasting the dragon egg on charcoal for nearly a year. Jack was sleeping soundly on the bed naked at this time, and Ellie and Yakir were also tired and fell asleep. However, after a while, Ellie and Yakir opened their eyes and looked at Jack between the two of them in confusion. At this time, Jack frowned. His whole body was covered with sweat, and his hands were tightly holding the hair of the two. Seeing this, Ellie immediately called the maid and asked them to prepare warm water. At the same time, she summoned Prime Minister Newgate. Jack was in a very bad state at this time. Jack was struggling hard in his dream at this time. In the dream, Jack was driving a small boat on the sea, but encountered a strong storm and the whole boat was shaky. Jack looked around in horror, completely forgetting his heart of the ocean and Poseidon. Jack took the oar and roared madly to eliminate his fear. Perhaps it was because of Jack's roar that the rainstorm really stopped. Although the wind was still howling and the sky was still gloomy, the boat stabilized. Jack breathed a sigh of relief and closed his eyes tiredly. Then the perspective slowly rose above the clouds. On the boat, a red dragon with a wingspan of more than 200 meters blocked the rainstorm. And under the boat, a titan beast with a body length of more than 200 meters stabilized the waves. The next morning, Jack looked at the red dragon with a slender snake neck, lizard head, and bat wings in his arms with a confused look on his face. The dream of last night was vivid, and the red dragon in the dream should be the dragon in his arms. The dream of yesterday was most likely the legendary dragon dream. Jack came to the mirror with the dragon in his arms. Jack looked at himself carefully. Golden hair, lavender eyes, and handsome features. All this pointed to a family that Jack had forgotten and should have been cut off. Blackfire. The Blackfire family is an extinct noble family in the king's territory. It was founded by Daemon Blackfire, one of the noble bastards, and is a branch of the Targaryen family. Daemon named his family after the famous sword Blackfire. Your family emblem is the reverse of the Targaryen family emblem, a three-headed black dragon on a red background. The Blackfire family inherited many characteristics from the Targaryen bloodline, including white hair color, inhuman beauty, purple eyes, and dragon dreams that are similar to prophetic powers. The dying Aegon IV, Targaryen legitimized his many illegitimate children. One of them, Daemon Blackfire, founded the Blackfire family. Daemon grew up to be a beloved leader and brave warrior. Many lords of the Seven Kingdoms at that time hoped that the king who sat on the Iron Throne would be a king like Daemon, who was like a god incarnate. Instead of Aegon's legitimate eldest son and heir, the weak Daeron. At this time, some rumors appeared in the Seven Kingdoms, claiming that Daeron was actually the illegitimate son of dragon rider Prince Aemon Targaryen and his mother, Queen Daenerys. Moreover, the ancestral sword Blackfire given to Daemon by the late King Aegon proved that he hoped Daemon would inherit the throne. Daemon did not have any other intentions at first, and Daeron tried his best to take care of his half-siblings. He even fulfilled the marriage contract set by his father for Daemon, and let him marry Rosiane of Tyrosh. He also granted Daemon a piece of land on the Blackwater River, giving him the right to build a castle. However, many people who admired Daemon thought that he should take the throne. Perhaps Daemon was just flattered by these remarks at first, but slowly he began to resent his illegitimate status and planned to rebel under the instigation of his followers. In 1906 AC, someone reported that Daemon was preparing to start an army, and Daeron sent the King's Guard to arrest Daemon. Daemon, who had escaped, used this as an excuse to raise the banner of rebellion in the Reach, and started the first Blackfire Rebellion. The Blackfire army was initially unstoppable, defeating the armies of the Westerlands and the Stormlands and advancing towards King's Landing. Daeron sent a large army to fight Daemon, which was the Battle of Redgrass. Daemon fought bravely that day, but made a fatal mistake. Out of respect for the enemy, he did not attack immediately after defeating Sir Gawain Corbray in a duel, but sent someone to take care of him. As a result, Bloodraven Brynden Rivers led archers to rain arrows at Daemon's location, and Daemon died on the spot. With his death, the largest Blackfire rebellion suddenly stopped. After the Battle of Redgrass, Blackfire supporters collapsed. Vitter Iron led many supporters and Daemon's sons to flee Westeros and exile to Tyrosh. Soon he established the Golden Company, integrated forces and planned a counterattack. Since then, the descendants of the Blackfire family have launched rebellions many times, which have troubled 5 generations of Targaryen monarchs, but they always ended in failure. The Blackfire family has continued in Essos, but the bloodline has gradually withered until Jaehaerys Targaryen II. At that time, the last Blackfire, the leader of the Golden Company, the fierce Maris Blackfire, was a member of the Nine and launched the War of the 9 Copperplate Kings. They successively conquered the disputed lands in Tyrosh and attacked the Stepstones, using them as a springboard to invade Westeros. Jaehaerys II sent an expeditionary force to defeat the rebels, and Ser Barristan Selmy killed Maris in a single fight. The Blackfire family, which had troubled the Targaryen dynasty for many generations, was extinct. But Jack once saw a post on a certain gay website. It was mentioned in the 3rd part of the spin-off Duncan Egg, The Mysterious Night. Daemon Blackfire II had some sisters. So, the death of Malice Blackfire may really represent the end of the male heirs of the Blackfire family, but it does not mean that the Blackfire family's bloodline is completely cut off. Some fans of the original novels speculated from the details that Aegon, the widow of Rhaegar who appeared in Volume 5, was actually the son of Illyrio and a female descendant of Blackfire named Scylla. Further speculation pointed out that Varys, the chief of intelligence, was related to Scylla. Varys even conspired with Illyrio to raise Scylla's son as Aegon. The ultimate goal of overthrowing the Targaryen family's regime and the Blackfire family ascending the Iron Throne was achieved. But Varys did not expect Baratheon's reversal, nor did he expect that the Dragon Queen got 3 baby dragons. Jack has not read the original novel, but only saw it from the post, but this does not prevent Jack from speculating on his identity. His mother is also very likely a descendant of Blackfire, but his father has never mentioned the news of Jack's mother. However, it seems to be a foregone conclusion that Jack has Blackfire blood. Dragon dreams, hair color, eyes, all conform to the characteristics of Blackfire. Hiss, the young dragon's tender cry came. The little guy was hungry. Fury, go ask the chef to grill a steak, Jack ordered. Jack carefully stroked the scales of the young dragon. The young dragon was blood red all over, and its neck was much longer than the 3 brothers of Drogon in the TV series. At the same time, there were small wings on the hind legs. Such obvious features make people know whose offspring this is, at a glance. Bloodworm Coryx. The standard bullhead is exactly the same as Coryx. It is said that dragons are hermaphrodites and can change genders freely, so Coryx is very likely to have left unknown offspring. For example, the 3 wolf-headed young dragons of the Dragon Mother, although in the TV series, Illyrio said that these 3 dragon eggs came from the Shadowland. But Illyrio is a businessman, full of lies, and his words are not trustworthy. Instead, it is more likely that the folk legend that the 3 young dragons of the Dragon Mother are the descendants of Fierce Fire. From the iconic wolf head to the tail, the 3 Drogon brothers are almost exactly the same as Dreamfire in the records. Jack directly named the young dragon Korakshu. This is the traditional naming method in the Game of Thrones world. Jack, who is not good at naming, just follows the local customs. The connection between Jack and Korakshu is far greater than the connection between Dragon Mother and Drogon in the American TV series. According to Jack's speculation, this should be related to the Dragon Dream. The Dragon Dream is a bridge to deepen the spiritual connection between people and dragons, and the Dragon Mother in the American TV series seems to resist Drogon in the Dragon Dream. Drogon's hideous appearance, like the Black Death, made Dragon Mother think that she was having a nightmare, and this situation did not disappear until Drogon was born. Moreover, a person can only connect with one dragon through the Dragon Dream. Daenerys has 3 dragons, which makes her unable to establish a good connection with her own dragon. Although Daenerys still truly became Drogon's knight in the end, but this also caused the 3 Drogon brothers to have a period of rebellion. Because of the appearance of the young dragon Korakshu, Jack temporarily gave up the idea of plundering court. Instead, he prepared to disguise himself as a businessman and take people to Korse to see the situation first. The appearance of Khorchu reminded Jack of some details. That is, Khort did not seem to be simply controlled by the 13 giants. So Jack stayed in the sea near Khort for another month. During this month, he trained Khorchu almost every day. Dragon dreams seemed to appear only before the young dragon hatches. Before Khorchu hatched, Jack only entered the dragon dream state once the night before it hatched. From here we can also see the blood gap between himself and Daenerys. Daenerys often had nightmares after getting the dragon egg. At noon, the air was visibly hot, and the huge Poseidon sailed towards the dock of Khort. Khort is one of the largest port cities in the known world. All the colors that Westeros lacked seem to have run to Khort. Khort has a separate huge dock for its own guild, and the dock behind the port is for merchant ships from the free trade cities, the Summer Islands, and Westeros to dock. Close to the sea is a huge day and night trade market. Wine cellars, warehouses, and gambling houses are scattered on both sides of the road, and the northwest of the city is a vast red wasteland. At this time, the poor and merchants on the dock looked at the giant merchant ship. Ships below 20 meters are called small ships, which are commonly seen in warships used by pirates and the Navy. Ships between 20 and 30 meters are called medium-sized ships, which are the most common and favored by merchants. Ships between 30 and 40 meters are called large ships, which have strong transportation capacity and sailing speed, but are expensive, and only powerful merchants can own them. Ships over 40 meters are called giant ships, although they have strong cargo capacity. They are expensive and not as cost-effective as large ships. And giant ships like Poseidon, which are 60 or 70 meters long, can only be said to be very rare. Only merchants who are rich enough to rival a country will customize one, and most of them are used to carry 13 to show off. For example, the 13 giants of Khort, each of them has a giant ship over 40 meters. But I heard that the ship of the giant Zyro was sold recently. After parking the Sea Emperor, Jack took 20 Unsullied off the ship, accompanied by Vitril and Ellie. After the transformation of the Sea Emperor, the full load was 420 people, and the supplies on the ship were all supplied by other ships. Among them, there were 70 sailors on the Sea Emperor, 30 logistics personnel, and 320 Unsullied. Jack only took 20 Unsullied off the ship, and the rest stayed on the Sea Emperor. After Jack got off the ship, people's attention was once again attracted by the baby dragon in his arms. What is that? His ship looks so big, and there are 20 Unsullied with him. Why haven't I heard of his name? Is it a baby dragon in his arms? I don't know, but we will know soon. It is said that the giants have gone to the North Gate to welcome the Mother of Dragons. The Mother of Dragons is a descendant of the Targaryen family. We can first see what her dragon looks like. Soon the news of Jack and his party reached the hands of the court royal family in the Thousand Palaces. Khort is ruled by the royal family, who manage the city-state affairs in the Thousand Palaces and command the city's defense, including the camel cavalry, and a powerful fleet of warships. The nominal ruler of Khort is the royal family. In fact, several powerful merchant guilds, including the 13 Masters, the Tourmaline Brotherhood, the Ancient Guild of Spice, and some other small guilds, hold the actual power of the city. The military expenses and expenses of the royal family are provided by the guilds. In other words, the royal family of Khort controls the army, but the control of the city is under the control of the guilds. The noble class of Khort is composed of merchant groups, including the 13 Masters. Recently, the 13th Master successfully annexed the Tourmaline Brotherhood, and the Ancient Guild of Spice and the personnel of the 13th Master will soon usher in a major reshuffle. Without the internal struggles between the guilds, the royal family of Khort will no longer have the strength to compete with the 13th Master. Especially now, the 13th Master bypassed the royal family and went directly to the North Gate to receive the Mother of Dragons, who is said to have 3 baby dragons. How can this not make the royal family of Khort think wildly? Just as Mavis was daydreaming, a servant came to him and reported Jack's situation. A merchant who looked rich enough to rival a country came to Khort. This merchant did not belong to the Khort Chamber of Commerce, and he was holding a creature that looked like a dragon in his arms. Mavis's eyes lit up, and he asked in surprise, "Are you sure?" "I'm sure many people have seen it, and the villain has also seen it with his own eyes." Aye, Mavis, I'm so lucky. Bring him to see me quickly. No, I will see him in person. Mobius was very excited. If he was lucky enough, maybe the Myers royal family would not have to worry about it next. The Khorthans were tall and pale-skinned, so they were called milkmen by the Dothraki. The popular Corthan clothing exposes one breast of a woman, while men prefer silk beaded skirts and robes. At this time, Jack was looking around at the women on the street, including A, B, C, and D. And because of race, most of them are big and white. Jack said he still liked this place quite a bit. And women here don't feel awkward because of other men's gaze. So Jack can look at it openly. Ellie and Vitril looked at the buildings in Korth curiously. Korth has 3 thick walls. Its shape is a wonder of the world, and a symbol of the power of the city. The outer wall is made of red sandstone, 30 feet high and carved with various animals. The central wall is made of gray granite, 40 feet high, and carved with lifelike battle scenes. The interior walls are made of black marble, 50 feet high, and covered with erotic sculptures. The outer gate is inlaid with copper. The middle gate is inlaid with iron, and the inner gate is inlaid with many golden eyes. The city's buildings appear in dreamy shades of rose, violet, and sepia. Pass through a bronze arch carved in the shape of 2 mating snakes with scales of delicate jade, obsidian, and lapis lazuli. Countless slender spires stand tall, and each square has elaborate fountains in the shapes of griffins, dragons, and manticores. Across the city is a huge arcaded street, where the city's ancient heroes stand on white and green marble columns 3 times life-size. While Jack was looking at the baby's rice bowl, he was also observing the internal structure of Korth. Korth is not as weak as shown in the American TV series. The outer wall is more than 9 meters high. If you want to plunder Korth, the outermost dock is the best target. You can also loot inside the outer wall, but they are poor people and can't grab anything. As for the central and inner walls, it is basically impossible to penetrate without sufficient troops and siege equipment. Just as Jack was thinking, a passionate and outrageous voice came over. "Hello, distinguished guest. I am a royal family member of Karts. I would like to buy you a drink. Can you?"